Hey everyone, hope you had a lovely weekend and that you're having a lovely Monday so far. I'm Louise, registered nutritional therapist. Hopefully you should know me by now. And I'm here today to talk to you about gut bacteria. And we're talking about this because this is a very overlooked area when it comes to weight loss and hormone balance. I can pretty much guarantee that no diet that you've probably done actually addresses your gut bacteria. And if anything, probably many of the diets that you've done might have actually impacted it for the worse and maybe even reduced the amount or the diversity of bacteria that you have. And that's a problem. And that could be one of the reasons why you're struggling now. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to try and keep it brief. And what I'm going to do is talk you through how gut bacteria has an impact on your weight management and hormone balance. And I'm going to leave you with some tips on how you can make sure that you're working on your diversity of gut bacteria. So, how does gut bacteria play a role in weight management? Well, first of all, your gut bacteria adapts to the food that you eat. And it also adapts to what's going on in your environment. So things like stress can play a role in your gut bacteria, the foods you eat, the drinks you drink, the supplements you take, and even the medications that you take as well. These all impact your gut bacteria. And sometimes the balance can be as such that it can actually give you cravings for certain types of foods, and often these are sweeter, more carbohydrate type foods that they tend to crave because bacteria really don't thrive on sugars, and often it's the less beneficial bacteria, also known as gram-negative bacteria, that can thrive on these carbohydrates and sugars. And what research has found is that the bacteria in your gut actually communicates with your brain through your nervous system. So there's so many nerves that are directly connecting your brain to your gut. And they found that bacteria can sort of stimulate these nerves to send signals to your brain to basically place orders for the food it wants. So, particularly if you have some sort of overgrowth of bacteria, and more often when you have an overgrowth of some sort of yeast, your bacterial yeast in your gut can actually really place orders for sweeter, more carbohydrate heavy foods. So that can be one of the many reasons why you might be struggling with cravings. So your gut bacteria and yeasts can give you cravings, and certainly can increase your appetite as well. So getting your gut bacteria happy and healthy can really help to manage cravings and your appetite too. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that your gut bacteria can increase the amount of calories and sugars that you absorb from the foods that you eat. And that means that a meal, one meal for one person could have a very different effect on you, let's say, than the exact same meal in the exact same proportions to someone else who's got a different balance of gut bacteria. So you could have a meal that might be seemingly healthy, but because of your gut bacteria, you've actually extracted a whole load of sugars and calories from that meal. And that means that that meal's put you into fat storage, whereas someone else that eats that meal might not. It might actually set them up for fat burning. So your gut bacteria can really change what foods are actually most beneficial for you. And at the moment, there isn't really a very good way of us knowing which foods you can are going to kind of set you up for fat burning and fat storage based on your gut bacteria. But what we can do is we can, not control your gut bacteria, but there's a lot that we can do to influence the balance of it. So that's the best place for us to start, rather than going too far into trying to change the food that you're eating based on the gut bacteria that you have, if that makes sense. It will. I'll come back onto this. So that's one thing, is that your gut bacteria can change actually the way that you absorb the calories and sugars from that meal. Another thing is that if your gut bacteria is imbalanced, then you are much more likely to have inflammation. Your gut can be a bit of an inflammation factory, because bacteria produces toxins, and if you've got too much of unbeneficial bacteria, then your toxic load can be quite high, and those toxins are absorbed into circulation, they do damage, and your liver ultimately has to eliminate them. So, what's going on in your gut can impact the rest of your body and how your liver functions as well. So your gut can be a bit of an inflammation factory. And what inflammation also does is it really stops other functions or systems in your body from functioning properly. So when you're inflamed, your thyroid isn't going to be working so well, your liver isn't going to be working so well, you're going to be more prone to immune issues like food intolerance and getting coughs and colds and that kind of thing. So your gut bacteria is really important for managing inflammation as well. So, linking this back to weight management, when you're inflamed, you're not going to be burning fat as efficiently, just because things like your thyroid and your hormones aren't going to be in the right balance. So that's inflammation. And then there's lots of ways in which your gut bacteria can impact your health and your weight management, but I'm going to finish off with hormone balance. So your way that your hormones work is that you create hormones in your body, you stimulate them from the vitamins and minerals and fats that you eat, and then they're used, and then they're broken down by your liver, detoxed, and they're eliminated into your digestive tract. Okay, then what can happen is, if you have imbalanced gut bacteria, well, what's supposed to happen is you're supposed to eliminate them when you go to the toilet. But what can happen if your bacteria isn't happy is you can reactivate them, or rather the bacteria can reactivate these hormones, and you can reabsorb them back into circulation. So ultimately what that can mean is that you've not only got this month's hormones circulating around your body, but you've also got last month's hormones circulating around your body as well. And often once they've been reactivated, they're in quite a toxic form. Now, this is a big problem when it comes to any sort of hormonal issues, be it menopausal symptoms like hot flushes, or be it acne or PMS type symptoms, you name it. This is a very common problem. It's something that I see regularly on stool testing. So that's one way in which your gut bacteria can impact your hormones, and that can make it more difficult for you to lose weight, because your hormones got to be balanced for you to be losing weight and feeling good. So as you can see, there's loads of ways in which your hormones can impact your health, your weight management, and your hormone balance. And just to quickly recap, so it can give you more cravings and a greater appetite. Imbalanced gut bacteria can make you absorb more calories and sugars from the food that you eat. It can make you more inflamed and more prone to inflammation, and it can cause hormonal imbalance, particularly in your sex hormones. So lots that can go wrong, but the great news is that your gut bacteria is very adaptable to your behaviours and the foods that you eat. So I've got some quick tips for you and things to focus on to make sure that you're keeping your gut bacteria happy and healthy. And these aren't overnight things, these are things that take time, and you need to be consistent with them. But after doing this for a few weeks or months, then you'll start to very slowly reap the benefits of it. So I could give you a long list of recommendations, but I'm going to keep it simple because there's no point in me overwhelming you. So the first thing that's really important, and this is not just for your gut bacteria, this is for everything, for keeping you generally healthy, and that's having a variety of different plants in your diet. So what I very frequently see when I look at someone's food diary is I will see the same, not necessarily the same food in the same form, but it will be the same plant over and over again. So for example, wheat. So a very common pattern that I'll see is something like someone will have, say, Weetabix for breakfast, or it could be some shreddies or a croissant or something like that. All of those things are wheat-based. And then perhaps they might have a sandwich for lunch. That's wheat-based. And then they might for dinner have some couscous or some pasta or something like that. That's wheat-based as well. So they're kind of 3 different types of foods, but they're all wheat-based. And so that's not variety. And that's a problem, because your gut bacteria needs variety. It needs a variety of different fibers, variety of different antioxidants and nutrients to keep it healthy, and ultimately help with your hormone balance, help with inflammation, and help with your weight management. So have a variety of plants. So what this means is that, for breakfast, for example, what I might eat would be a homemade granola, which has a variety of different nuts and seeds, and maybe a little bit of oats in there. And so I've counted up previously that my breakfast might have 5 or 6 different plants in there. And then for lunch, you want to, again, try to get in some more different plants. So it might be some quinoa, it could be any number of different vegetables. And then again, dinner, have more variety, something slightly different. Now, I don't want you to kind of misinterpret what I'm saying. I'm not saying go vegan. I'm saying that when you eat, make sure that there is a variety of different plants there. Okay, so that is one of the most important things, and this is one of the biggest things that I pick out from people's food diaries, is that lack of variety, and that has a really big impact. And this is something that I actually see prescribed in lots of diets. And I don't mean to single out anyone in particular, but often I'll have people come to me that have been to someone like a personal trainer who have perhaps told them to eat porridge for breakfast, chicken and broccoli for lunch, and then maybe chicken and broccoli for dinner, or chicken and, I don't know, green beans for dinner or something like that. And they've told them to eat that every day. And the reason why they've told them to eat that is because it's lean, because it's low calorie. But the problem is that there's such a narrow variety of fibers in that diet that the gut bacteria really suffers. And after a very short time of eating a restricted diet like that, the diversity of your gut bacteria seriously diminishes, and that has a huge impact on your health. So steer clear of diets that are that simplistic. Variety is really key. That's the first tip, and that's really the main thing you should focus on if you're not already getting variety. The second tip is about fasting. So fasting can be an extremely good way of rebalancing your gut bacteria and also resting your gut. So there's been research on a particular type of bacteria called Akkermansia, and this is one that has been very robustly studied, and they've looked at it in terms of, they've looked at sort of obese rats. They've taken the gut bacteria from obese rats and they've put it in slim rats, and that's all they've changed. They haven't given them any new food or anything like that, and then these slim rats become obese because of the bacteria in their guts. And one of the key things that's been picked out when they've studied obese people compared to slim people is that slim people have way more Akkermansia, whereas the obese people have almost none. So it's a really important bacteria, it seems, for modulating your metabolism and processing the calories and sugars that you eat. So what research has found is that one of the best ways to increase this Akkermansia, aside from having lots of variety of fibers in your diet, is fasting. So now, in the scope of this video, it's difficult to give you too much advice on fasting because it depends on where you're starting from. But the best advice I can give you is to start off by making sure that you're having a 12-hour overnight fast as a minimum. So 12 hours between your dinner and your breakfast, or between your last meal of the day and your first meal of the day as a minimum. And then if you want to increase your fast, you can gradually expand it out from there to having a later breakfast or an earlier dinner. And having that break allows the bacteria to start rebalancing itself. So that is the second tip. And then the third and final tip is to eat more fermented foods. Now, this is going to be things like kefir or kefir, depends on how you pronounce it, which is basically fermented milk. a little bit like yogurt, but they use cultures to ferment it, and you can get it in most supermarkets. You can get goat kefir if you can't drink cow's milk. You can get coconut kefir and water kefir, and you'll more likely find that stuff at the health food shop. So these are all just really good ways of getting bacteria into your system. Sauerkraut, which is fermented cabbage, make sure it's fermented and not pickled. That's a fantastic superfood for getting bacteria into your gut. It's also really rich in fibre because it's raw before it's fermented, but it's actually really easy to digest because it's fermented. But also it's got prebiotics, which is basically the fibre, and it's got enzymes in there as well, which really helps you digest your food. So I consider sauerkraut to be a bit of a superfood. And then there's also things like kimchi, which is a similar thing, and that's basically just fermented vegetables, and miso, which is a fermented soy. So these are just a few sort of common products that you'll find in the supermarket now, all fermented, all very easy things to add into your diet, which can just boost your gut bacteria. Another quite trendy one at the moment is kombucha. So it's like a fermented tea, and you can find that in supermarkets as well, or online, or in the health food shop. And it doesn't mean that you have to add all of these things into your diet. It might be that you just add one of these things, or you have a different thing each day, and you just get some sort of bacteria into your diet each day to help to be continually adding bacteria into your diet, because it's something that we would have had a lot of bacteria, perhaps back in the day when we were eating a more traditional diet and we weren't so intensively cooking foods and eating more raw vegetables. We would have had a lot more bacteria and digestive enzymes. But now, with how processed our food is and how much we cook our food and how little raw food we eat, we have very few bacteria and digestive enzymes. So that's one of the reasons why our gut bacteria has suffered. So there you go, there's 3 tips for boosting your gut bacteria. So that's eating a variety of different plants, be it fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, pulses, legumes, grains, all different plants. Variety is really key. Fasting and starting off with a minimum of 12 hours overnight really helps to rebalance your gut bacteria to help with weight loss and hormone balance. And then eating fermented foods gets that good bacteria in as well. So if you've joined at the latter half of this video, I recommend you go back and rewatch the video, because there's lots of information about why this is so important and how your gut bacteria is so important for weight loss and hormone balance, and how it's so often overlooked and neglected in most diets and for most people who are trying to lose weight. So I've thrown a lot of information at you there. If you found this helpful, give the video a like, say hello in the comments, let me know if you've got any questions. I hope it's been helpful for you, and I will see you next time. I'll see you next week. Bye.